Uber drivers and Lyft drivers getting back pay is now a real world possibility. And this is another big sign that things are getting better for drivers. And you can see right here that California ride hailing drivers could get back pay. Now I know for all my other drivers in all the other 49 states, you're like, Mark, come on, this is only in California. Yes, but if you look at other states, this is becoming more and more common. Massachusetts is looking into this and doing it, right? So even though, yeah, I know it's kind of disheartening if you're watching this video being like, I want back pay. Who doesn't want to get reimbursed from all the stuff you have to deal with for the past years of driving? What happens in these big states, especially California, does trickle around and go to all these other states around the country. And it is kind of unfortunate, I'm not gonna lie, that it's such a huge difference legally of what goes on when it comes to ride sharing from state to state. But again, although this seems like, oh, well, it's just in California, the idea of drivers getting back pay is now becoming way more common all around the country. You can see right here, tens of thousands of California ride-hailing drivers and possibly more could eventually get back pay after a recent U.S. Supreme Court decision that clears the way for the state and some cities to proceed with their lawsuits against Uber and Lyft. And this is big. I talked before in other videos about Prop 22 and AB5. I talked before that AB5 was passed in California that tried to give better protection to independent contractors, freelance workers, and more. And the only exception to that was Uber and Lyft and ride sharing and Prop 22. So you can see that the two companies, Uber and Lyft, had to argue that because their drivers had signed arbitration agreements, the wage theft lawsuits that California filed against Uber and Lyft in 2020 were invalid. But last week, the nation's highest court declined to hear the company's appeal. So things are moving now. This is huge, right? Going down here, these attorneys have been trying to pursue enforcement actions on behalf of the drivers for more than 4 years. Their lawsuits accuse the companies of misclassifying their workers as independent contractors, failing to pay minimum wage for all time worked, not paying for breaks, overtime, and sick time, and more. And this is something that happened in Massachusetts. Like I said, I know it's probably disheartening if you're not in California and you're like, Mark, why do I care? Like, why would I care about this if I'm not in California? You should, because like I said, this is not just a only California thing. This is something that's spreading all around the country, and this is huge, right? And going down here, you can see that we remain committed to defending the rights of California workers to receive the benefits and protections to which they are legally entitled. In addition, these attorneys are stating this, that we are confident that we can demonstrate that Uber and Lyft drivers were employees under the test that applied at that time. So during this time of, like, say, 2020 and everything going on, it was that situation of independent contractor versus employee. This is kind of interesting. This is the only thing that I'm like, all right, I'm not sure how it's going to play out realistically. Are drivers going to stay as independent contractors? Are they now arguing that drivers should be actually pushed as employees? Because they're stating that they were employees under the test that applied at that time. What happened in Massachusetts was the best for all the drivers, right? Definitely the best state to drive for in the country now is Massachusetts, because drivers are independent contractors and stay as such, yet they get rights and protection, right? They get paid sick leave, unemployment, et cetera, et cetera. So their angle here seems to be really pushing it as employees, and I wonder if California is going to follow suit with Massachusetts, saying, okay, you know what? Yeah, these drivers should actually stay or be independent contractors, and they kind of are, but should still get some of the protections and the rights that employees get. I've said it a few times and I'll say it again, that yes, I know this is just in California, and I know for a lot of my drivers are like, hey, why do I care? Why should I be worried about this or even care about it? It's not affecting me. It, in my opinion, inevitably will. The idea of Uber and Lyft drivers getting back pay, getting protection, is now starting to become a huge topic of conversation all around the country. Not just in California, not just in Minneapolis, not just in New York, not just in Massachusetts. I mean, it's spreading a lot. And I've said this before in numerous videos, even like last year and even 2 years ago, that I could see some federal thing happening. And I could see that happening when, I don't know, 2025, 2026, I'm not entirely sure. But with this spreading so fast and it being such a big topic of a conversation, it is almost inevitable that you, the drivers out there, regardless of the state that you're in, will eventually get some type of benefit, whether it's back pay, unemployment, paid sick leave, benefits such as like health insurance, medical, dental, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, at least some type of benefits that employees get, because Uber and Lyft, and I've said it in so many videos, but it's important to mention, especially on this video, is really paving the way to have its own unique category of classification, not just being independent contractors, not just being employees, but being independent contractors with benefits. And it seems to be happening that a lot of states are kind of looking into this and being like, hey, you know what? Uber and Lyft actually has been misclassifying their workers, and they've been kind of getting away with it, and they've been kind of having their cake and also eating it too, where they get to classify their workers as independent contractors, but they kind of treat them a bit like employees, where they try to like take advantage of their drivers, right? As we all know, Uber and Lyft does this a lot. They're taking advantage of the people working for them, but also they don't give them the benefits at all, right? And it's super, super messed up, right? It's super, super messed up. They're basically saying, hey, we want you to work for us. We're going to kind of treat you like employees, but kind of not. But we want to do this almost no strings attached, if I'd even use that phrase. And we're just going to do whatever we can to make sure that you don't get any rights, any protection, and most importantly, no benefits. And now this is a new thing that's happening, where you have this independent contractor with benefit situation that Massachusetts, in my opinion, has really pioneered. And like I said, I do think Massachusetts, given all the stuff that they did, that I've already done videos about, is definitely the best state to drive for in the entire country. To me, there's no question there. I mean, you're basically treated like an employee while also getting the benefits of being an independent contractor in terms of like the flexible schedule, which is the biggest thing for a lot of Uber drivers and Lyft drivers. You want to be able to drive whenever you want, however you want. You don't want it to be a situation, and I've seen some apps do this, where they say, hey, you have to tell us when you're going to drive, right? So you have to say, like say on Sunday, I'm making this up, for the next week, you have to be like, all right, yeah, this Friday, I'll drive from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m., right? Kind of typical Friday night shift. The thing with Uber and Lyft, though, is the beauty of it is you can make it instantaneously flexible. It is instantaneously flexible. You turn on the app whenever you want. You turn it off whenever you want. We all know this. That's the best part about it. And that's one of the big benefits of being an independent contractor. And with this, it kind of falls in this unique and amazing category that independent contractor with benefits is becoming so much more common, especially when you look at California, maybe even looking at Massachusetts, saying, Massachusetts actually is looking into back pay and doing it. We should do the same. So there could be a chance for all my California drivers out there that you might get an email, a message, I don't know how it's going to work, where they say, hey, we just realized Uber and Lyft actually owes you X amount of money. And this is just another step with things getting better for drivers. And I said before, I think it was last year, that I feel like last year was like the dark ages of Uber and Lyft, that, you know, you hit rock bottom, or we were in rock bottom, and then eventually things are going to get better. And it seems like that's being the case, especially with the Supreme Court not fully getting involved, but kind of. That's a huge, huge thing to really help out all the drivers out there. And back pay is becoming a lot more common, of not just saying, hey, from here on out, you get minimum hourly guarantees. You get health insurance. You get paid sick leave. You get unemployment. You get reimbursed for wrongful deactivations, et cetera, et cetera. Not only are they doing this and looking forward now in a lot of cases, but in this case, they're looking backwards when it comes to actual back pay and saying, hey, we just realized that based off how much you drove, Uber Lyft owes you, and I'm making numbers up, $2,000 given X, Y, and Z. That would be amazing for all the drivers out there to get money that Uber and Lyft really should have given them. And actually, they deserve that money. Now, when it comes to this situation, though, my only kind of hesitation, as I kind of touched on earlier, is it seems like they're kind of going at it, these lawyers and the legislation is going at it from the angle of that drivers should have actually been employees, and they actually were employees for the past 4 years. I think that's kind of a slippery slope, I'll be honest. And the reason why is most drivers want to be classified as independent contractors. They just want the benefits of being employees, like I said a bunch of times already throughout this video. So I don't know if this will turn into a Massachusetts-like situation where they say, okay, you know what? We're not going to make them employees. Let's be honest. Yeah, maybe they should have been classified as employees the past 4 years. You could argue that and go back and forth, and there's arguments on both sides. There's pros and cons on both sides. But we're going to keep the drivers as independent contractors, but give them all the benefits, the back pay, et cetera. Or are they trying to almost reopen the situation that Prop 22 talked about, where Prop 22 basically said, should they be independent contractors or employees? Could that be revisited in a whole other way when it comes to this? I'm hoping no. I'm hoping that they kind of, after looking into all this, kind of follow suit with Massachusetts and say, okay, you know what? And we're not going to try to push for drivers to become employees again, like we did with Prop 22 4 years ago. We're actually going to make sure that they stay as independent contractors, but get this back pay, they get all these benefits, et cetera, et cetera. Got to say, though, when it comes to this and a lot of other articles I've talked about, things do seem to be getting better for drivers in terms of the rights and protection. Yes, there are tricky things happening right now in the ride-sharing world. Like I just did a video a couple of days ago about how algorithmic wage discrimination is becoming more popular. Basically, Uber and Lyft using AI to determine how little they can pay their drivers, and they're almost BS tolerance for what is considered a good ride and not, where if, let's say, one driver will accept anything, they're going to pay him $8 for a ride. But if another driver is more picky, they might give him $12 for that ride. And Uber and Lyft can kind of skate away with this because they're like, hey, we're going to have dynamic pricing, not just with the passengers, but now also the drivers. Because if we know one driver is very picky, okay, we're going to give him $12 for this ride because, let's be honest, they should get $12. But if we know another driver isn't picky and they accept anything, we could take advantage of them and only pay him $8 for this ride, pocket that $4. Pretty great, right? So yes, there are good and bad things happening with drivers right now, but I will say this is at least another step in the right direction of laws, legislation, all this kind of stuff happening, because even a year, 2 years ago, I've done videos, a couple years ago, of course, just saying like, look, I feel like lawmakers and all this kind of stuff and policies, they don't really know what to do about Uber and Lyft. They don't really know how to classify them. They don't really know, is Uber and Lyft actually taking advantage of their drivers or are they not? But now it's becoming way more of a topic of a conversation, state to state. It's becoming way more of a thing to actually push for new laws moving forward, but now also backwards, right? Looking not only proactively, but retroactively. So as things are looking right now, when it comes to these laws and legislation, not just in California, but it seems to be all these other states, things are finally moving forward for a lot of drivers getting the protection and the rights, most importantly, the rights that they deserve.